There you go. So working on different co-curricular programs. Some of you have been to our annual student conference on global challenges. And of course, anything that we have on campus or any of our programming like this that we're having through Zoom. We also assist with any grants and funding. Our office is the official Fulbright Scholar Liaison Office. So if you're a faculty member who is applying for Fulbright, you can work with us to help find your international partner that you're going to be applying to do research with. If you have any other types of international grants that need either high-level signature, we're joined here today by our Vice Provost, Jake Marini, so we can be of assistance for that. Collaborations, obviously, with Drexel and Philadelphia at large. Our hope is that every student, faculty, and staff can have a globally engaged experience, and we see global classrooms as one of the vehicles towards that. And also thinking a lot about access, equity, inclusion, and global experiences. And global classrooms are really a way to approach all of these endeavors. And we'll talk about what that looks like as we go along. So what do we mean when we say global classrooms? So this is technology for global engagement through curricular classwork that students are doing. You might hear it be called something different depending on what institution you're at. So the overarching name is known as virtual exchange. Different universities have codified it in different ways. So we call our program Global Classrooms. The original model was set up by the State University System of New York. And so the phrase COIL gets passed around a lot, and that stands for Collaborative Online International Learning. But our program began in 2013, really with the intention of helping to internationalize the classroom, providing students with opportunities for exchange at home, and helping students see the value of international exchange. If it wasn't part of their thinking process when they were first applying to Drexel, it was an opportunity to kind of plant the seed that global is important when we think about transferable skills, work skills, and academic skills. So more formally, they're co-developed and co-taught modules. They support the development of 21st century workforce skills and provide opportunities for applied learning experiences. These are authentic opportunities for intercultural and transnational learning. So when we talk about the activities students do, we don't want them to be passive opportunities. We want them to be really engaged and communicating with their peers abroad. So since beginning the program, we've had over about 80 of these types of courses. You can see the numbers of students that have had a touch point through Global Classroom. So it's a real testament to the faculty who have been there with us at the beginning and who have helped really spread enthusiasm for Global Classrooms. And the other value to them, besides obviously students having a great experience, is our faculty developing new partnerships with their peers abroad, has led to several publications on virtual exchange. There's a whole journal for virtual exchange, so it's becoming an important medium in global engagement. It can also help you further your research agenda as well. So we like to show this graphic as an example of what we mean when we say virtual exchange. So we have a Drexel faculty member here in the top left, partnering with a faculty from an international institution. That institution can be one of Drexel's partners. We have over 100 partners, or it can be your own partner that you've had over time, that you've already solidified a relationship with. And we're bringing our students together through collaborative classwork and activities. The Drexel students get Drexel credits. The students from their partner institution get their home institution credit, so it's not an exchange of credits. There's no exchange of funding. The modules can be as short as a couple of weeks during the Drexel quarter to the entire Drexel quarter. So usually when I'm working with faculty for the first time, I suggest that their first go at this be something a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter, so they get the feel of what it means to manage a global classroom. We have some faculty where starting from week one, their students are engaged with their partner students abroad right away. So any discipline is eligible to incorporate this global dimension into their schedule class. And I bolded schedule class to hone in on the idea that these are courses that already exist. So the learning objectives stay the same, because that's very important, obviously, for accreditation. Basically, we're enhancing the courses with this global engagement experience. So you think of, if you're assigning a group project already in your classes, this is an excellent way to take that group project and enhance it and then say, and say, instead of your classmates being just your Drexel peers, you're also going to have classmates from Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences who are going to be your teammates. Again, I want to kind of further highlight that point that it really is helping to provide equity and access for students, especially who study abroad, might not be in their plan of study or is not an affordable option for them. And it can really help broaden their global perspectives of their field. What does it mean to be a nurse in South Korea? What does it mean to be someone who is negotiating diplomacy from other countries' viewpoints, right? So career preparation, advanced study and research. We've had doctoral level global classrooms where our doctoral students are comparing different research methods with their peers. And so this can also be used as a way to think about advanced study and research. We've had a senior design that functioned as a global classroom. In biomed, students were working with students from the Ivory Coast on a biomed technology. So there's also a way to incorporate that research element for your students. From our end, we're supporting research and collaboration through pedagogy and teaching. We're here every step of the way to assist you in the development of the global classroom, to the assessment of the global classroom as well. There is some other additional incentives. Faculty for the first time teaching and developing a global classroom can receive a $750 professional development stipend from our office. So that's usually very helpful for faculty who are then interested in, when we're at a time when we're able to travel, obviously meet their peer in person, develop further opportunities, attend conferences on virtual exchange, et cetera. And of course, support from our office and from IT. So there's 3 different models that we're going to highlight. There's the asynchronous model of global classrooms. So this is project-based learning in which students are assigned classwork to complete at agreed upon time. So students are really the ones who are scheduling when they're going to meet with their peers outside of class hours. Just like you would, again, assign a group project, the students wouldn't work on it necessarily during your class hours. They would have to find agreed upon time with their peers to work together on the assignments. So it's more similar to a group project you might assign for your class. So asynchronous timing. It requires a decent amount of follow-up and check-ins with the students and your co-facilitator abroad. But it's a great model for if you're working with a partner that is in a very far time zone where it's really hard to make that line up, the class meetings line up. It's a great opportunity for that. It can also be a really good opportunity if you're working with a country where the technological infrastructure makes it a little bit hard for the bandwidth to do a live Zoom like we're doing, a stable live Zoom. So you can use that asynchronous method so that students can work, again, through their own technology. The synchronous methods generally best suited for European, South American, let's say West African time zones. Students are live together like we are using platforms such as Zoom or Blackboard Collaborate, maybe Google Hangout. And that's usually going to be whole class discussions or joint lectures. So maybe you're giving a lecture, your faculty partner is giving a lecture, and your students are having a whole group discussion. It's also good for group presentations that you might want to do live. And then the hybrid model is a blend of these 2 models. And several of our global classrooms tend to use this, where maybe you start with a synchronous session at the beginning of your global classroom module, just so that students can see each other. Then you assign the asynchronous work, and then maybe you have a final synchronous presentation where your students are presenting in groups. So before starting, these are some questions that are really helpful to ask yourself. First off, again, because we're using courses generally that have already been developed, you can decide if your department is interested in starting a special topics course that's a global classroom. That's certainly fine. But if you're thinking about the courses that you teach, first ask yourself what existing course would lend itself best from an international perspective. So what course do you teach really could use that infusion of a global perspective? I happen to think all courses can use a global perspective, but you might have one that is really specifically set up for thinking about cross-comparative perspectives. What course objectives would lend themselves best for collaboration? And this is important, especially when I'm working with deans and department heads, so that they know that the course itself is not changing in its objectives. So you might, you look at your 4 or 5 course objectives that you have, the learning objectives, and which one of those would be really helpful to have that global collaboration. Are you interested in a multidisciplinary course? So most of our global classrooms are a discipline match, so business and business or nursing and nursing. But there's also an opportunity to be really creative in your global classroom design. So maybe it's a clinical nursing course at Drexel and a sociology of healthcare course at your international partner. So different disciplines, but there's a overlapping learning objective there that is important to have both the clinical perspective and then the applied social justice perspective as well. What location is best for exploration? So for some of you who don't have a current global classroom partner and you're thinking about, us assisting and helping you find one, this is helpful for me to know what location are you interested in working with, what country would be best for your topic. What technology or technologies is best for collaboration? I'm going to give a pitch for using Learn itself since we have the infrastructure for that. But again, certainly depending on your partner, depending on certain privacy laws, for example, in Europe, there's some other technologies that you might decide might be better than using Drexel Learn. And again, thinking about what would be duration of the asynchronous, synchronous, and hybrid work. So is this going to be for your first time a 1 to 3 week experience? Have you already done a 3-week experience and you're looking to do a longer period of time? And then particularly because Drexel has such a lovely calendar, thinking about what's that best time for you to hold your global module that also coincides with another school's semester module, right? So that's important, thinking about the timing. It generally works out. Sometimes it winds up being the module starts Drexel week 3, and for a semester school, that's their week 6. But it usually generally works out to find that sweet spot for global engagement. So let's talk technology with a question mark. I forgot why I have a question mark there, but I think I had something else there beforehand. So again, first question, can we use Drexel Learn? Yes, absolutely. And it makes it easier because you have that platform that our students are generally already familiar with. So that does help in terms of acclimating to technology. Should we use Drexel Learn? And I guess I'll ask Michael at some point to jump in and maybe give a pitch for why it's best to use Drexel Learn. What if the international partner wants to provide their own technology? From our perspective, that's fine. That generally hasn't been the case for the most part. I find that our partners tend to be deferential to our system for whatever reason that is. But if another partner has a different learning management system and they're really, it's really important for them to use that is fine as well. And we'll talk about what else we can use. And I'm going to thank Michael again because he helped with these slides, so they are not mine. So thank you, Michael. So utilizing Drexel Learn. So your students, and all international participants can use Drexel Learn, and we facilitate that through cross-listing. So a course is created for the international users. What I usually will ask you to do is to send me the names and emails of the international students at the partner institution. Our IT team will create accounts for them using their email addresses. They'll get standardized passwords that they're able to change, and they will log in directly at Learn just like our students would. Instead of immediately typing in their information, they would click on a link that you don't click on often, but it says, I do not have a Drexel account, and that's where they'll put in their information. The caveat being, and I'll let Michael explain this a little bit more, but the international instructor generally only has viewer access to the course. They can still be participants in it, but you're going to be the one who is uploading any shared readings or video clips.
Sure, and if you want, I can go into that.
Yes, that'd be great.
Right
yes.
now. So essentially, the reason the international instructor is only a viewer is that if they had a TA role or an instructor role, then they would have access to the Drexel students' grades, which we can't allow. So basically, the instructor has access to the course, can see all the content, can participate in discussions, things like that, and all the students can do all the things that your students can do as well.
Thanks, Michael. So Michael put together what the cross-listing process looks like. So we have our banner course, the external course, and coming together in the parent course. So you can see, Michael, do you want to explain this actually while I'm clicking through it?
Yeah, sure. So essentially all banner courses exist in Blackboard Learn. So your course is already there with all of your students. What we do is we create another course. We enroll the international instructor and students in their specified roles. We then create a parent course, and basically all the enrollments from your banner course and that international course flow up to the parent course, where then you have access to put in all your content. So basically in that parent course where you're building out content, all of the international students and your Drexel students have access to it. The reason we do that is no one who is not registered for a course in Banner can be in the Banner course in Blackboard due to registrar policy. And so this keeps them separate. So the international students can't claim Drexel credit for being in a Drexel course, but they all get to work together in the same environment.
Thank you. So if your partner wishes to provide technology and that's something that you agreed upon, these are some important steps, again, that IT recommends. First off, obviously finding out what technology they want to use, testing it ahead of time, and then working with ITG to develop materials for students. And so this is good recommendations regardless if you're using Learn or partner technology, especially testing it ahead of time to make sure everything works. Michael, anything else you want to add about this slide?
The only thing I wanted to add is actually the opposite, is that if the international partner comes into our system, we can make sure they're trained up on the parts of the system you're using that they need to know.
Thanks. So additional technology, everything is at your disposal. Of course, anything that is linked from Learn can be used by Drexel students and our partner students. The caveat, and I always forget, Michael, why you put but in there, but I know one of the buts that I think about is I do try to recommend that faculty don't use social media, such as Facebook, for example, just because we don't want to put the onus on students to have to develop a social media account that they're not interested in developing. That's my caveat. That's my but. But Michael, did you have something different?
Yeah, the biggest caveat is the course reserves. So while we are able to create an account for the international participants in the Blackboard system, they don't have full Drexel accounts, and they would need that in order to access course reserve items. So if that's something that needs to be shared amongst the international peers, just make sure that they either have a link where they can share it from their home institution, or you're providing it in some other way that's also in alignment with fair use.
So again, all the tools that you might be using already and that you might have become more aware of now that we're all remote teaching, thinking about discussions, blog, journals, wikis, these are all great forms for asynchronous communication. It's also a great way if this is new to you and you're maybe not quite comfortable with technology, with all the intricacies of Learn. It's a great way for you to start off kind of with a global classroom environment, since discussion boards might be more familiar to you. There's the Collaborate tool, which is an integrated tool that can be used for synchronous communication. We made this slide, I think, before Zoom became a university-wide subscription. So most of us prefer Zoom, but certainly Blackboard Collaborate, which I've used in other mediums, is also great as well. Same thing with different types of assessments. Now, again, you're giving, as a Drexel faculty member, you're giving grades just to Drexel students. We're not giving grades to our partner students, but you and your co-teacher can certainly collaborate on assessing and providing feedback, but you're going to be the one responsible for your students' grades. So thinking about the other types of different assessment tools in Learn are certainly available. And again, Mike, feel free to just interject it whenever you'd like to. Many of you might be already familiar with the group function in Learn, so you can create groups of students that are mixed between the institutions, and then those smaller groups can do things like their own joint discussions and file exchanges. I use this for the courses that I'm teaching, some of the bigger classes that I'm teaching. It helps put the students already into smaller groups where they can have more intimate discussions among themselves. And then the voice thread options, which is presentations created from PowerPoint that you can post within Blackboard Learn. And students can view each other's presentations asynchronously with a voiceover and share and comment on other students' presentations. I love VoiceThread. I think it's maybe a more underutilized option in Learn, but I think it's great for the online environment. And then again, the other technology that Drexel offers is certainly available to you. OneDrive, Turnitin, Qualtrics, surveying, and of course we have our Zoom video conferencing. So again, I mentioned Michael and his ITG team have been really great in terms of helping us. So always, thank you, Mike, of course. Any technical questions, you can shoot them directly to itg@drexel.edu. You can also ask me and I can help connect you, especially if we're in the process of working together. But they're certainly always available and having wonderful partners in this. So thank you Michael, and thank you to your team. Anything else you want to add, Michael, before we move on? Or
just not to hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. So, feel free to ask. Don't get frustrated. Think you have to go it alone.
I just want to provide a couple of examples before we hear from the real life faculty examples. What I've been doing actually, and I'm happy to do this with your departments, is going to departmental meetings, faculty meetings, and using one of their course syllabi to present an example. So this is one example I came up with when I was presenting to our Health Services Administration department. So let's take a course in health policy that's offered at Drexel in the winter quarter that has 18 students. And we're going to partner with the University of Bologna in Italy during their spring semester, right? So technically different semesters, different quarters that overlap. They have 20 students. And we're thinking of a 3-week project for this. And so some of the synchronous activities might be a joint seminar with Bologna, joining by Zoom, followed by a whole group discussion on comparative health policy regarding access to care during COVID-19. So that might be one synchronous example of a module that you have. An asynchronous module with this example, students are paired in groups of 4 using Learn, using the group function. Each group has to choose a healthcare topic. So let's say LGBT access to care, to quality care. Students have to review policies from both the US perspective and the Italian perspective, and prepare a joint presentation using VoiceThread on differences, similarities, and gaps in that particular policy. So that's an example of a synchronous model and an asynchronous model. Some other ideas, there might be a joint review of a standardized patient scenario. What does cross-cultural communication look like in nursing? Joint lectures by both faculties. You can really see there's a very, there's diverse examples of what you can really do with global classrooms. And we make it broad intentionally, at least with the Drexel model. Another example, and this is a disciplinary mismatch that we would call it, using a STEM course. So let's take a biology class at Drexel, a biology of aging class. And this is a larger class at Drexel. Let's say it has 50 students. And it's going to collaborate with a sociology of aging course in Chile that has 40 students. And their timing of the project is 2 weeks. So let's say the synchronous example is, the students were given some readings beforehand to look at, but we're having a class period together where there's a joint lecture again by our faculty members on cultural attitudes towards aging. Our faculty here at Drexel gives a US perspective, and our Chilean faculty member gives a Chilean perspective. The asynchronous work might be reflecting in group discussion boards about their own experiences. What are their perceptions, misperceptions about the aging? And maybe they share links to news items regarding aging. So they're sharing resources. Then you'll have your students at Drexel maybe submit their own personal written reflections, and that can be a graded assignment. So just giving you, a wide variety of examples of what this could look like. Some quick notable outcomes. Over 70% of faculty members who offer a global classroom usually offer it again. So it tends to be a model that's enjoyed by faculty. Some turning new courses into additional global classrooms, so you might hear about that from our faculty peers. We do some assessment. We send surveys to both our students and our students abroad after the completion of the global classroom, just asking some quick, I think there's 5 or 6 questions about how they benefited from the global classroom. And over 90% of students, both at Drexel and our partners, believe the courses help strengthen their team skills working in multicultural groups. And over 90% believe it assists in their global understanding of their profession. So some of the bigger pictures of why we do this, right? Many faculty choose to develop face-to-face travel components following their global classroom. Once travel, is permitted, it's an opportunity to think down the line, do I want to do a global classroom? And then add on an intensive course abroad during the intersession periods, during our winter break, spring break, where our students who took the global classroom can apply for a week-long education abroad program where they get to meet their peers in person. It's also strengthened existing partnerships with the university, laid the foundation for new ones. I can tell you our current student exchange agreement with the university, the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, came about because I met a colleague of mine, Ava, who does virtual exchange as well at a conference. We connected our faculty together who did a global classroom. That global classroom led to an intensive course abroad. And then that conversation, we realized Drexel and Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences have a lot in common in terms of applied learning. and that became a study abroad location for our students. So it really has been wonderful in terms of strengthening some of our existing partnerships. And we also see it as a way, if we're thinking about a new partnership, it can be a first go around at some sort of collaboration as well. And some information on our International Virtual Exchange Conference. So I'm part of a steering committee with a couple of universities in the US and abroad. We put together our first International Virtual Exchange Conference last year. It's the largest and most prominent event on virtual exchange, providing a forum for an audience of deans, directors, faculty, instructional designers, administrators, and professionals from institutions around the world who are interested in this methodology. Last year, we had our first conference, was hosted at the University of Washington in Tacoma. We had over 350 attendees from 28 countries around the world. This year, our plan was to host it in Newcastle, UK in September. We decided recently to switch that to a virtual, International Virtual Exchange Conference. So it is something that if you're interested in registering for, it'll still be held from September 14 to 16. And many of your peers will be presenting at that conference. And so it's a great opportunity to network, to find a partner in this methodology. So I'm going to stop talking for a sec and allow anyone who has any initial questions that I can ask. And while I answer questions, I'll ask Dana, Jody, whoever would like to share their screen and go first is welcome to load their presentation. Or Gina.
I can load my presentation, Adam.
Okay, go ahead. And while you're doing that, let me see where my chat box went. Okay, so Rachel, you asked, can the 1 week long on-site visit be incorporated as part of a global class? I know Gina does this. Yeah, so there are different models for the intensive course abroad, and one of those models is what we call the follow-on model, and that's where there's a course that takes place and the week-long international experience is part of that course, and it's a follow-on module. Sometimes that follow-on module is an extra credit, but that is something that is possible. Usually it takes about, for anyone who's interested in that, it usually takes about a year to develop an intensive course abroad. So it's something that if you want to think about now, you'd be thinking about it for a year and a half down the line. But it is possible to do that. It's a good question, Rachel. Any other initial questions before Jody gives her example? I'm just giving people a couple seconds to. Okay, so we'll continue with Jody, and then again, if you have questions, feel free to load them up and I'll answer them after we're done with the sharing from our faculty. So Jody?
Okay, hi everybody. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Professor Jody Cataline. I am in the LeBeau College of Business. I teach across a variety of departments and different disciplines in business, but this particular global classroom is related to a Foundations of Business course we teach first year incoming freshmen. So it's a unique global classroom because the audience is actually, the first year, first term, first couple of weeks they find out and they opt in to taking a global classroom. The remaining freshmen that don't opt into this, this is done about, at this point it's expanded, about 1/5 of our freshman population does do this course. But the other freshmen take the same, we do the same syllabus. So we're teaching the same discipline. We clearly, have to go through and make sure we're working together in unity across all freshman programs to make sure that the students are getting the same level of education. But this particular classroom experience takes a project that we already have instituted in our freshman programs. It's called a 6-minute pitch. It's a marketing pitch. It's sort of like an example of a Shark Tank. So we're teaching a marketing component in the first, I want to make sure that the chat isn't, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I want to make sure that my voice was working and that the chat wasn't for me not being able to be heard. So we take the one project, which is a marketing project, and we make it a global project. So we have 4 different partner institutions, and I say we because my peer, Dana D'Angelo, and I are working together and we collaborate on this. So we do this, we've kind of come up with this idea and enhanced it together over the last 6 years. We've had 4 different partner institutions, all European, that have helped us with this project. They've embarked on the journey with us. We've done it both synchronously and asynchronously, and it's only dependent when we go asynchronous, it's because of scheduling issues, either on our end, to be honest with you, or on our partner's end, but both work. So it's the same project, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. And again, that project is a marketing project. So we have the students combine, and we split them into as equal groups as possible, depending on how many students are on either side of the project from each of the institutions. And we have them collaborate and communicate and make sure that they use all the tools that they have to come up with a marketing or a new type of product idea, service that can be used in both areas where the partner institution resides. So it has to work in the US, and then it has to work in Amsterdam or in England or in Germany. And the students then learn a lot about each other's culture, about their learning experiences. They get to collaborate, and they get to, it's a great experience for them. We've had very successful outcomes. The project started with a small group of students 6 years ago, and like I said, it's expanded to about 100 students last year. So it's gaining a lot of traction. We've had a lot of success with it. What's also nice about the project is as we've added on global partners throughout the years, we've been able to add and have the partner institutions contribute some academic input or feedback into our own rubrics for grading. So they've given us a lot of great feedback on what we're doing in our classrooms and have come up with a nice rubric that we use. I believe Dana is going to show us in a little while when she speaks about how we're able to kind of refine our project to make it even better. So having the additional faculty member also gives you some heightened awareness of what you're doing and some great tips to add into your own teaching, which I love. We also have, Dana and I have done a lot of faculty research as as an outcome of this. We're collecting data now, and we are finding that the students, or we're hoping to find that the students that are embarking on a global classroom their first year at Drexel, give them the impetus to do some further travel or do some global engagement scholar or some other type of intercultural activity throughout their years at Drexel. So we're finding that we have an increased rate of students that are willing to do that after having that first year freshman experience of having a global classroom and intercultural activity happening. We've also published a chapter in a book. We've attended many conferences. Like Adam was saying, we have attended IVEC last year, plus other conferences as well, and presented on what we're doing on this global conference. And I think that was all I had to say on this slide. If I don't, let me see. As far as the calendar goes, I was making notes, Adam, when you were speaking. As far as the calendar goes, if you do want to think about a global classroom and using it, the calendar works really well with Europe. Europe starts later like we do at Drexel, so we found that it's a nice way to kind of integrate a global classroom because they start in October. So in Germany, my partner in Germany, actually there's two universities we use in Germany, they've synchronized really well with us throughout the years because of the same academic calendar, especially in the fall. And I think that was all I wanted to speak to on this slide. The next slide kind of turns the floor over to Dana, if I can move the slide. And this was a poster we used at a conference. It just kind of shows a little bit of what we're doing. So you'll see we have, in this slide, we have 3 partner institutions. So one was the University of Leeds in the UK. Adam has talked about Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, and then the other one is the Berlin School of Economics and Law. All 3 of these institutions, we have done subsequent ICAs, intensive courses abroad, where we've given the students the opportunity to embark on an actual travel experience and done collaboration there. We've even gone so far as to take the students from the University of Leeds and Drexel students, and last summer we did a triad global classroom, a live one in Germany, in Berlin, with the Berlin School of Economics and Law. So we had 3 institutions working together on a project run out of Siemens. So that is the introduction for my part, I'm going to turn the floor over to Dana so she can continue on the talk. And again, I'll be open for questions after everybody's through.
Thanks, Jody. So Jody's going to unshare her screen and I'm going to reshare my screen. And in addition to what Jody has been saying, I want to talk a little bit more about what that has led to. So I think there was a question in the chat box regarding, doing these as we are remote. And very interestingly, I am in the process of one right now. It had been planned already, but it ended up being a larger part of my overall course. And so I like to call it a virtual exchange. So it's a VVE. And it's been going very well. I'll talk a little bit about that. So one of the models that Adam mentioned was sort of where the global classroom could connect to an ICA. And to put this in perspective, Jody and I worked together on that freshman sequence. She showed you that it led into some intensive courses abroad, primarily first year focused, but then it also led to additional courses with global classrooms. So some of them were connected with the ICA, some of them were just new elective-based courses that came out of these relationships. So from that one global classroom 6 years ago, the program grew, the ICAs grew, and now we have new creative ways to do things with these global classrooms. So it's been interesting because the partner institutions have led to even stronger and deeper relationships where some of the faculty have actually come to Drexel themselves. We have taught and been live at the other schools ourselves. And it's led to just some very, very interesting overall connections with the faculty. So we've really, really loved that. These additional global classrooms have broadened a little. They've become a little bit more cross-disciplinary and multi-level. So I like that Adam mentioned that you can bridge and have different topics and different disciplines involved. So we've not only done that within the course, but the course itself has become a bit interdisciplinary. Still very business focused, can't lie, because that's what Jody and I do. That's our area. But we've had students from engineering and design and a few others that just have an interest in what we're doing. And if we have room in the course, we take them. And it's really led to some great things. It's also been multi-level, not just first year. So we're working with first through seniors. So you can have a mixed group of students all around in a global classroom. The projects have become a little bit more focused, a little bit more intense. So where what Adam was saying, it's easy, and that's where we started, where we took a current project and we embedded it into the class as a global classroom. There can be global classrooms that are focused around new courses, new content, and we've developed some courses that are around a global classroom with other pieces put in. They've centered a lot around project management, where we've also included businesses or institutions in these local places. So it's a triad of the other institution, Drexel, and maybe a small business or a social enterprise. So it became a little bit more consulting-based, business advisory, which is very, very project management, team and leadership oriented. And the skills come out in a global classroom in general, but these additional, I call them springboard global classrooms that came out of other global classrooms, are very, very focused in that area. And what I like a lot about them, as most of the students have either had another global classroom, they've been on an ICA, they've had a co-op or two, so we really can center around that authority and responsibility for them, and they run with it. Most of these are a hybrid model, so some synchronous, some asynchronous, and that seems to work very well. So some of you may be wondering why there is a picture right there of my kitchen with some food items on it. Right now, my virtual exchange is with Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, and we are doing a very, very interesting program. I'm going to show you the manual that we created in just a moment. So it's with students in the Netherlands. We were supposed to go. So we were supposed to be there as an ICA and then have a follow-up global classroom on an additional project. We weren't able to. So the Global Classroom Project kind of saved the course, and it's been remarkable. And one of the things that we'll be doing is having a synchronous breakfast. So all of the Drexel students were mailed a box with some Dutch products that you can see there. And the Dutch students, we have been in contact with them about US products that they may not know. They include some tasty cakes and Pop-Tarts and Jell-O and Airheads, some things that you can't get typically in the Netherlands. So we're even doing fun things like that where we're having a virtual breakfast all together. So I really, really like that. So I wanted to quickly show you the course manual that we do, and it gives you a little bit of a very quick idea of what Jody was mentioning and how there's been a lot of academic input. This manual started with our partners in Amsterdam, and then we latched onto it and Drexelized it, I'll call it. We made it a lot more detailed, but we loved the approach. So this term, the students are doing a mini documentary. They're working together to actually create a little video. I can share those with you when they're all done in a couple of weeks. And we've assigned them to 7 different regions around the world. In addition to learning about the Netherlands and the US, we're really, really broadening. They had to then pick a country. They had to do country profiles and research, coming up with all kinds of ideas and recommendations. And it will result in an actual video that can then be given to co-op students, study abroad students, young business professionals about tips on if you're going to this other country, what you can expect and what you can do. So a very, very concrete deliverable, and we really like deliverables that can then be shared as evidence of everything that we're doing and that the students can actually put onto their LinkedIn. And Jody and I have had some great, great feedback, and part of our research and evidence is the impact that all of this has had, not just on a student's academic career, but now after 5 years, they're graduating, and we're doing some current research on how did this affect your post-Drexel experience career. And the data so far has been very, very positive and exciting, because something like this, they put on a resume or LinkedIn and they keep talking about. So that's just another version of a global classroom. Well, those are the instructions that they get, and we have another whole slide deck that we talk through there, Rachel, with some resources and tools about how to do it. And we did videos before, so it's a great deliverable between the 2 institutions. So in the essence of time, I'm done. Adam, or who's next?
I'm going to pass it over to Gina next. But
Perfect.
One thing I wanted to just quickly say that I like about what Dana and Jody did, and what I encourage everyone to do if you're embarking on this, is make sure you do leave time regardless for that, just that cultural connection, just those, the informal discussions about what life is like for each other. That's very important in general, just before you embark on the actual content. So it's something that I sometimes forget to bring up myself. But I really liked how their project Dana, infuses that anyway into the day of the life. So Gina and Juliana, if you both want to go ahead and talk about your global classroom.
Yeah, Gina, I'm going to share the screen, right?
Yes, please start, Juliana.
Yeah, okay. Here. Okay, Gina, I start, then interrupt me when whenever you like.
Yeah,
this is
or
an
maybe
introduction to our, you can start, yeah.
Well, I thought maybe I should introduce you. So this is my colleague Juliana Yanacona, and we also have Juan Diego Blanco with us.
Yeah, hello.
And we've been working together for the past, I guess, 4 or 5 years. The reason Juliana is starting is because she's the one who started this whole thing. So she's going to start the presentation. But we've been working together for the past 4 or 5 years, and Juan Diego is our teaching assistant. Well, he started out as a student, and he's been with us for the last couple of years, and now he's a teaching assistant and a PhD. So why don't I let you start, Juliana, and then I can kind of jump in.
Okay, so this is a short history about the cooperation between Politecnico di Milano, the university where I teach. I'm professor of architectural engineering, and I'm director of the graduate program in building and architectural engineering. The cooperation with Drexel is long-lasting with Politecnico di Milano, and we started many years ago, and 15, 16 years ago. And our cooperation was mainly supported by the European Union through different programs for PhD exchange or students and staff exchange. And we started in 2004, and together with Gina, we are continuing now because we are now waiting for the third project funded by the European Union in the framework of Erasmus project, which is a project supporting students and staff exchange. And now we have some students in exchange with the second project of Erasmus, and we are waiting for the renewal of this program. Because of the health emergency, these funds have been prolonged for 1 year. So we have 1 more year to use these fundings to support travel and travel grants for both students and staff. The first time I came to Drexel as a visiting professor was in 2015. And at that time, I started cooperating in a framework of a research project, was Philadelphia 8450. And at that time, me and Gina met, and we started planning things together. And so since then, we work together mainly. And we started working planning a global classroom. And as a follow-up of this global classroom, we started even to organize intensive course abroad for the students. And so every year we almost have 1 global classroom, general on spring term, an intensive course abroad on September, when both in Drexel and at Politecnico di Milano there are no classes because of before the start, let's say, of the fall term. And so we had almost 4 global classroom and 4 intensive course abroad. They were really successful, and we are continuing with this experience starting from them. With the global classroom, we organized 2 main topics, which were related to biodesign and integrated building design, which are almost, let's say, multidisciplinary topics, which cover different aspects. We started with the global classroom format, which perfectly matched the teaching methods in both universities. So we had this global classroom format of 3 credits that almost correspond to 3 hours a week, organized in the morning for the students of Philadelphia and in the afternoon for the students of Milan, of course. And our format is to have lectures, guest lectures discussion times with students, and teamwork. So we almost organized the global classroom so to have 1 hour, 1 hour and a half of discussion with the students, follow some readings and some assignments. Then we have lectures or guest lectures, and then teamwork with the students, which are paired as we explain later. This is the structure of our class. So basically, we have a 3 credits course at Drexel, and at Politecnico di Milano, we have a 3-4 European credits course. They are not the same with respect to the way we count for the hours, but let's say the teaching time is almost the same. So it's 3 hours per week as let's say as time for the students to stay in the class. One structure in my case, because our students are more, I'm supported by Juan Diego, he's here, and almost we have an average of 8, 10, from 8 to 12 students at Drexel, and generally 2 times of Politecnico di Milano students. We are a public university, so we have many more students. So generally, we, in order to select a proper number of students, after the students at Drexel select this global classroom course, following the number that we have from Drexel, we open the call for application at Polyme, so to select a number of students that allow to organize teamwork between Drexel and Politecnico di Milano students. One practical issue so that can help interacting with your colleagues is related to the let's say to the recognition of credits at the hosting universities, because mainly we are not able to include in our educational offer a specific, but this is true for Italy. Maybe not, it's not the same in other universities, but because of our the plan for our educational offer, or the process for our educational offer from 1 year to another is quite long, and we have to respect some fixed rules by our government. We are not able to include specific credits for the global classroom. So we found some way in order to award credits to the students. And generally we recognize 3 or 4 credits as like an internal internship activity, or even like extra activity credits. So they are not in their educational, in their career as a global classroom, but we found a different way so to recognize credits to our students. This is a practicality, but sometimes it can be something that you have to discuss in order to, of course, to recognize credits to the students, especially for the hosting universities. And if you need more information about that, we can discuss it later. The global classroom, basically at Politecnico di Milano, for us it's okay to use the tools and the platforms offered by Drexel. So we have lectures and presentation on using the Zoom platform. We all use Drexel Learn in order to, of course, to share documents with the students, and even to collect the deliverables by the students. And the teamwork activities are managed by the students. We have mixed teams of students. We have 1 from Drexel and 1 from Polyme, or 1 from Drexel and 2 from Polyme, according to the numbers that we have. Juan Diego or Gina, when you want to add something, just interrupt me or raise your hand. For us, it's really simple to work on this platform. So Juan Diego, I don't know, Juan Diego is helping me very much this year, especially with the assignment, so he can tell something about what is, for someone who is not used to use Drexel Learn, how is to interact with this platform.
Yeah, perhaps I could give some insights on it. I just want to say that Learn, it's really intuitive. It's really helpful as well to grade, read, and let's say share the information coming from the students. It's also really easy to correct and grade their assignments with I think that's the Rubrica, yeah, the Rubrica options that you have to grade them in a more, let's say, homogeneous way. Also the option of giving a draft grade or providing a feedback to them, and then also sometimes students give you a feedback. I mean, give you a reply to your feedback. So it makes the class even more interactive. Even though like sometimes people tend to think that being an online or let's say an online course or such, it loses a little bit of interaction. But when you're in when you're in Zoom and when you're in the platform, it's a matter of, let's say, trying to integrate the students into the discussion. So from my perspective, when we have been doing these classes, the fact that we're doing a discussion at the beginning makes it just more makes it way better for both the teaching, let's say, the teachers and the students as well.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in really quick because I personally really enjoy this greatly. Not just the teaching aspects of it, but the aspects of how we're contributing to bring students together from around the globe. And the model that we've developed of the readings and discussions that Juan Diego just outlined, gets them talking and synchronously, and what we're doing in our classes is kind of is a combination of the synchronous and the asynchronous part. The synchronous part is when we start out the class and we have a discussion, we have readings and a discussion, and it gets to be pretty lively. It gets to be pretty lively. But and then at the end we have a lecture that gives them content to think about, and the content that we give them to think about is then discussed the next week. So we have kind of this continuum of presenting information and then having them learn about it and then having them discuss it and then presenting new information. But I think the really exciting part of the class is pairing the students up. So we're real live synchronous having these discussions, but then the students are teamed so that we have one Drexel student and 2 Poly-Me students, and then they work on a project together. So the asynchronous part is a project-based learning part where they work together internationally, and part of the hope is that they make international friends. But it's also training them to be global leaders. And I think that's what, everyone here who's, doing a global classroom or interested in doing a global classroom knows how important it is, especially at this point in time in our history, for us to be connected globally and for us to have those kinds of interactions. And so I just wanted to contribute that, and I guess we can go to the next slide, Juliana. But I'm really grateful to Juliana because she's started this many years ago and brought me into it. And as you can see from the slide that we'll discuss, we're exposing our students to these international leaders in the industry of architecture and engineering. Juliana? These are all your students, aren't they?
Some of them are our students. And anyway, one opportunity of the global classroom is that you can invite guest lecturers from everywhere, almost for free, because you don't have to pay them travel costs. And we had the opportunity to invite some friends and colleagues from other countries to be part of this global classroom, and they have been engaged in our activities, and they enjoyed as well. So we are really happy about that. And but just I go fast because Gina already introduced about that. These are the works that students did And I must say that, of course, students are smarter than us, so they know all the possible alternatives and to communicate. So you don't need to give them tools or other stuff, because they know how to manage distance cooperation. Some of the results, some outputs of this cooperation, of the teamwork, some examples of the different, but just a selection of works. And this is our global classroom today. And at Politecnico di Milano even is an international university. We have students from all over the world. And this year, all the students are attending the class from all over the world. So we have students from every country, from Iran, India, and Egypt, and so on, South America, UK. So we have students spread everywhere, and everyone is attending the class from its. So it's a real global classroom this year, and anyway, they are really active, and even if they are not in the class, and so. It was yes, even this year we are enjoying a lot this experience, and it's a very great experience. This is let's say a typical timetable, time scheduling, how we manage. Generally, we have the global classroom is organized into 10 weeks. In European countries, we are based not on terms on the semester. We have generally 13, 14 weeks, but we organize students' activities so that they are able to manage. So basically, we start our semester 1 month before you, and then we start with the global classroom. So the 10 weeks are aligned with the last 10 weeks of our semester. So even in this case, it's perfectly matching other programs. So maybe you would like to know what happens later after our global classroom. So some students decide to continue with this global experience, attending our workshops that we organize every year in Lecco, which is a city on the Como Lake. I'm here on the Como Lake, where Politecnico di Milano has a campus. And we host students here to spend 2 weeks, and we travel even a little bit around Italy. Some other students decide to further develop the topic they developed during the global classroom in order to study more for the final thesis. Some students decide to apply for an exchange program through the Erasmus fundings, which are available for Drexel and Polyme students. Now we have four Polyme students at Drexel as exchange students, and they are attending classes there and even working on the final thesis with Gina. And we are so happy because during our activities, many new friendships were born. So some students continue their new friendship. And on the other side, teachers always develop new ideas for both didactics, research. Now we are collecting some outputs on a book and maybe 2 books, who knows? And now we are planning, I have seen that Gina already wrote in the chat, because of this situation, we are starting to change our study abroad program into a new global classroom. Unfortunately, we will be not able to spend a couple of weeks on the lake. This is a picture from last year study abroad program on the Como Lake, and this is us. And anyway, we'll switch this experience to a global classroom. We will try to promote in person the cooperation among the students. Professor Ellis developing new ideas, and we will do the same even at a distance. And thank you. If you have any question, those are our emails, and you can contact us for additional information. I don't know if Gina, if you would like to.
Well, we have a big, long question from N. Marley. I'm not sure. I think the answer to your question is we teach through Drexel Learn, and fortunately, Michael Shelmet and his team, what they do is they register the students from the Politecnico di Milano in our class using their emails, and then we also register, as like this year, Juliana and Juan Diego as TAs in the course. So we have the Blackboard course that's up and it's fully running, and all the students from both sides can access the Learn site, and Juliana and Juan Diego can also go in and do things like help with grading and things like that. And so the work that's done in the class is it's real-time work, and it's regular assignments like you would have with any class. And I guess for us, it was kind of natural moving to Zoom because of the pandemic, because we had already been teaching through BB Learn, and we'd already been, posting the assignments, posting the lectures, interacting in that way. So when the pandemic came and us switching the class, it was the same. So we're running the class pretty much like everybody else here is running the class. The only difference is that 2/3 of the students are in Italy, basically. And the teamwork, for those of you who aren't in design, a lot of my colleagues from Westfall are here, but for those of you who are not in design, I'm teaching a studio right now that's not related to this classroom, but I'm teaching a studio right now, and I'm having the students build models and all kinds of things that are tangible that you usually do in person in studio. And they're doing them independently, and surprisingly, the class is running pretty much just like our design studios, except that we're operating through Zoom. And what's really great about the global classrooms is it is pretty much exactly like you would be teaching it at Drexel, except it's remote. And the students work together, and we grade together, so it's all done together as you would in a normal classroom. I hope that answers your question.
One of the Adam responded saying that I understand. Yeah, so if the two courses come together, then it fits perfectly. But if it's gathered from the other side, if it's gathered through calling for who wants to participate, then how can it be like accountable, like accountability?
Right. Yeah. So that's the hard part. And we've done that before. Oh, go ahead, Gianna. Yeah.
No, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I just want to explain what we did, because we had both experiences. Because for 2 years, we managed this global classroom as extra credits. So that means that in 2 years, we consider the exam passed or not passed, but simply because we can give credits, but these credits cannot be, let's say, evaluated. So students, they pass or not pass. 2 years, we combined 2 courses that were in the, let's say, the careers of the students. And in this case, we added an assessment as well. So students get credits and a grade.
Okay. And
we studied both the options.
To be a legitimate global classroom, does the other side have to be given a grade from their instructor, or does it not have to be? As long as we have like a collaborative
Yeah, at least for me, my goal is the students collaborate. The only thing I caution, and again, anyone who's taught a global classroom, Dana, Jody can talk about their experiences when it hasn't been 2 courses. Sometimes if the faculty member on the other side if there's nothing to really hold the students on the other side to doing the projects, and your students are getting a grade for it, we sometimes see a bit of an imbalance in terms of participation,
Right.
and that can frustrate our students, and vice versa. If it's an informal gathering of our students, it can frustrate their students. So it's possible, depends on what kind of project you're actually looking to do. Probably a shorter term project would make sense best for that. So we can definitely talk about some of your ideas, but I usually just caution that you can sometimes have that imbalance of effort.
So is there like a minimal time frame that should be like one project, or how like 2 weeks is to be considered a global classroom? Is there like a standard of like the minimal time?
No, not for me. For at other universities, they might have that type of kind of, this is what we want to see, but I like to have a real flexible design. So even, a couple of meetings is fine for me, as long as, again, the students are really working together in some sort of project-based capacity. Yeah. Dana, do you want to add?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in. When we first started the global classroom that Jody said we've been doing for 6 years, our very first partner, the students were not part of a class. It was sort of like volunteer clubby kind of thing. It went okay. We also did it very short. We only had about a 3 to 4 week maximum project. So it was simple. It was just kind of getting your feet wet. Even if you have the partner school in a course for assessment or for grading, things can look very different. So we have had it where the project on our end is 25% of the student's overall grade for a course, and other programs have had it at 10%. So you really do have to work on that synchronization and what that means. And another example is the project that I'm doing right now. I mentioned my virtual classroom. We have phases, if you saw that manual, and we have several deliverables before the final deliverable of the video. So we've got, here in the States, we call it scaffolding, right? So it's one big project, but we have multiple turn-ins and multiple assignments. Now, on my end, I grade each of those. Each of those are worth points or are part of the big project that the whole thing's 50%, but this piece is 5% and that piece is 10%. Whereas my Amsterdam partner, they turn things in every week, but they don't get a grade until the end.
Mm-hmm.
He grades everything big picture. And I think Germany, if I'm not mistaken, did the same thing. Jody's
Yeah, Germany does the same thing. It's a little frustrating because they're not getting the feedback and assessment as quickly. So, and the grading scales are so different in Europe versus the US. So the grading element probably is one of the harder things as far as buying from the students. So you do the best you can. And I know sometimes our students are overachievers and they want the perfect score. They're worried about their GPA and then subsequent co-op positions. And again, we're talking about incoming freshmen, a lot of today's conversation. So you really do have to manage it. You reinforce the fact that we always reinforce, because we're business professors, you may work with somebody who isn't on the same scale as you. We talk about the continued communication, and we make sure that we talk about, just managing expectations across the board. And that's a lot of what we do anyway in our discipline. So we just try to tie it in more.
But it is also a cultural thing for our students, domestic students, to realize how education is around the world. That academia in different countries can look and be very different. The other thing I would add in, if you do have some of those discrepancies, to factor in your own reflective pieces, possibly as part of your assessment. Mm-hmm. So even if the other institution, it's just the content, like the nuts and bolts of the project, maybe you have, a weekly blog post about What have you been learning culturally? What difficulties have you had? And let the students have some personal, individual reflection and assignments that constitute part of their grade, so they don't feel like the whole thing is hinging on this project with people in another country that I don't even know from another school who may or may not care about it. So it's tricky navigating, but you know, it's doable. It has never ever been such a hindrance to us that we've like thrown our hands up. We've been at this for quite some time.
We have about 5 minutes left. So, you know, instead of doing our breakout groups, we've had a good discussion. So we'll just continue with any questions you might have from the audience. So feel free to turn your mics on, or feel free to send a message through the chat.
This is Cheryl Portwood, CNHP. I just thought I would ask the group of you who have done global classrooms, just as sort of information for people who haven't yet but are thinking about it. Is it worth it? It seems like it's an awful lot of trouble for the faculty member to engage in. You have to plan way ahead of the term, I would think. You have to do significant planning with the other faculty member that's going to be involved with the course. It involves, you know, managing the technology and interacting with IT and possibly adjusting your syllabus and your grade weights. Is it worth it?
I will start. Yeah, I will start. Yeah, it's a big effort for sure. So Dana has been here. I'm calling her out. She's getting mad. 30 years. I'm here 20 years. We've been teaching in our disciplines for a long time. It is repetitive, mundane. We both are looking to do something different. Again, I teach across different disciplines as well to keep myself engaged and still interested in the work. And this has been, without a doubt, the best labor of love ever. So it has allowed me to travel, you know, so many different places, has allowed me to publish, present. I've got to hang out with Adam, which is a huge bonus, just FYI. He's a lot of fun. So you can.
What about me? Hello.
No, forget you, Adam. So I definitely recommend it. Honestly, it just kind of brings, it's not like once you do it, you have to continue to commit. Adam said there were 70%, I think, as a return, but there's 30% that weren't, right? So maybe it wasn't a great experience, but we've done it with so many different universities. Each one is its own challenge, but we've made so many friends across Europe now. Like we have, I always call it a big rubber band, you know, one of those rubber band balls, and you add a new person. So we got this little group that travels everywhere, and I love it. It's awesome. The students love it too. So don't be discouraged. It is a lot of work. So just put in the effort. We're home anyway, so whatever.
Yeah.
I happen to share your view. I have done a couple of myself, and you know, kind of instrumental in setting up another couple of them. And you know, I've found that the responses of students to the exposure that they have to students in this case in their field in another country, another culture, has been really eye-opening for them, and it certainly set the stage for some marvelous professional relationships for me. International conference and a couple of publications, and once you get your template up, if you will, you might be doing some adjustments or whatever, but if you can get it up and you can get it running, and you can do it from year to year or from time to time, it's you know, it pays off. It always does with online learning. The work that you do up front really pays off as the course goes on. Thanks.
Thank you.
You know, for me, it depends. It's, you know, we're all here because we're extremely passionate. Jody said labor of love. I wouldn't have traded these last 6 or 7 years getting involved for anything, but it is a lot of work. The nice thing now, as Adam and the office has promoted all of this, people do understand. that it is passion, it is a labor of love. And you know, you're recognized for it, and I think it goes into the fact that it's part of teaching excellence. And if that's what you're striving for and that's what you want in your own teaching, then you go for it. If it doesn't fit in, then it may not be worth it to you. But you have to have a strong interest and passion, because you know, it's different. But we love it. We absolutely love it. So good luck.
Good question about working with Indian universities, institutes. We have done that before. Patrick Gurian from College of Engineering has had a couple of global classrooms in India. Our nursing department has had a couple of global classrooms in India. So if you're interested in that, again, just feel free to, and if anyone's interested in taking the conversation further, obviously you can email me. My email is my last name @drexel.edu. So it's Zahn, Z as in zebra, AHN as in Nancy, @drexel.edu. It is 11 o'clock, so I want to be mindful of time, but I want to thank all my wonderful faculty who have shared their experiences. It's so helpful. I will share around the slides with everyone. I have the list of those who registered. I did record this, and I'll also post it as well. But absolutely follow up with me if you're interested in embarking on this. Especially, I think right now it's really important that we have ways for our students to continue to engage globally. So thank you all, and have a nice rest of your day. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.